Hello and welcome to another episode of Conscious Living. My name is Marc Caron. We air every Wednesday here in Vancouver on 100.5 FM CFRO Co-op Radio. And today, it's that time of the year again when people get all crazy about love and sex and relationships because this Friday is Valentine's Day. And in the spirit of Valentine's Day, I'm really honored to bring in our guest today. Amy Culler became an expert because she and her husband were needing and couldn't find a solution to their problem. So she's combined traditional therapy, tantra, and science, and has spent over 20 years guiding thousands of men and women and couples to experience real intimacy, heal in connection, and grow into confident, sensual lovers. She's the creator of the Huddle, a game-changing tool for intimacy, communication, and confidence. Amy is also the author of The Huddle, How to Score in Sex and Love. The mind behind the intimacy game plan, a revolutionary program that transforms couples from roommates to playmates through pleasure-based strategies, not endless talking. A sought-after speaker, including her TED Talk, Better Intimacy for Better Sex, which I saw live in person. And I got to say, that day, that's actually when I met Amy Culler, and I was fascinated because, yeah, there were some great speakers that day. However, she, in my opinion, was the best. And she's also holds certifications in couples therapy, neuro-linguistic programming, trauma, and addiction recovery. Her message is simple. Intimacy is a skill. Connection is the cure. Pleasure is the practice. And love is the outcome. Welcome, Amy. A pleasure to see you again. Always a joy to connect with you.
Thank you so much. I love being here with you, Mark. Thank you for having me. Let's spread the love, baby. Mhm.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where whenever we connect, I always feel so comfortable and relaxed as if we've known each other forever. And it's been a number of years now, though when we met at those TED Talks, the Stanley Park edition here in Vancouver, it was like, feel like I know this woman, for all my life kind of a thing. And just the connection that we have is always fantastic. So I look forward to our conversation today because of the great work you do with couples, with men and women in terms of intimacy, relationships, sexuality. And, you know, I look forward to the conversation today because the world is changing. It's been a crazy number of years since you and I have done a program or shared our gifts with the world together. And I want to take a deeper dive in terms of what we can do in today's world to enhance our intimacy, improve our relationships. And of course, you know, most people I think like sex and want sex. That's kind of a driving force for so many people. So maybe tell us a little bit about your story for those who don't know you, and then we'll dive in and unpack how we can be better lovers. And I don't mean just in the bedroom.
Giving and receiving love is definitely a practice, and that takes a plan. I am so glad to be here with you today. I also remember the time that we met. It was profound. I love that TED Talk. And if we're talking about today and what it takes to love in today, love is a feeling. Love is something we have to feel, and we're not exactly sure how that is. I say that when it comes to love, it's human nature to feel a little bit of us feels unlovable. That's human nature. And so we get into a relationship to either prove ourselves right or wrong. But we get into a relationship because we want to love someone. We want to give our love to someone. But the fact is that it's hard to receive love. So we get into a relationship with someone that we love, and then we stop feeling or making the love. And that's why relationships end. And I make it really simple. I've gone deep dive into understanding it. So what we want, people today think that they want to feel loved, and then they think they want to experience sex, and they think of those things as two separate things. But we're human, and part of our wiring, as if you think of us like wiring, is we're wired to be connected. And we are strongest when we're in connection. And we're strongest when we mix love and sex. And so my story is that I married a man I loved. I loved all of him from head to toe, inside and out. He's still a fascinating man. I love him to pieces. And he had prostate cancer and prostate issues before I even met him. And so I knew that there were challenges with stamina, strength, equipment before I even got with him. And I was like, oh, we'll figure it out. There's lots of things to do. But then I realized there were all kinds of issues that happen with them. I'm like, oh, I can teach anybody, but it's different when you commit to a relationship. And that's what we all really want to do. We grow by being committed to something. You can't just drop in and play baseball and think that that is going to be satisfying. You want to be part of a baseball team. That's when you get really good at playing baseball. And a relationship is the same way. So when I found myself in a relationship and we weren't playing baseball, we did what we do. We went to talk therapy. I love therapy. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what couples therapy is. This is going to be terrific because I loved singles therapy. And then I found myself in couples therapy going, we're talking about childhood trauma. This is not sexy. This is not helpful. And I could see that the therapist was goading us to talk about an argument or a difference that we had. And I'm like, she wants us to fight. Not, I'm not, I don't, I'm not, no, that's not what I came here for. We went to the best sex therapist. We went to the best sex therapist in Beverly Hills. We went to the best sex doctor, man's sex doctor in Beverly Hills. And that's the thing. If you want help, you go to a therapist and you're talking, or you go to a doctor who's trying to help you with the pills. Where's the technique? Where are you actually growing these emotional skills and these physical skills? I just wanted somebody to teach my husband how to touch me and how to love me up. And that is exactly what I do. I studied therapy, couples therapy, sex therapy, attachment styles. I'm certified in multiple modalities. I went because I kept looking from modality to modality going, is anybody going to address intimacy, real intimacy in a relationship? None of them. None of them. I finished the degrees, I finished the Gottmans, I finished the Pact, I finished the Imago, I finished the sex therapy component. They never talked about how to actually make love. And what you do when somebody has erectile dysfunction or barriers to penetration, which 45% of all women have. So it's not just a men issue. And there's nobody helping people. What do you do when there's illness? What do you do when there's diabetes or heart issues? And so when I was helping people with erectile dysfunction or barriers to intimacy, I had this component and I'd see people in my office and I made it all about not having penetrative sex, about really awakening your body. And people were going nuts. Couples were coming back to me going, why is this the best sex? And I'm like, because you didn't have sex, because you weren't worried about penetrating. But that was the biggest orgasm I had. I'm going, yeah, yeah. Because your whole body is an electrical, sensual body. So it's that exploration and that discovery that bonds them. And suddenly they're no longer arguing in the living room.
Beautiful. So I guess my biggest question is in terms of the work and the research and the experience over the years, I find it interesting that, especially I'm not going to speak European or anything, but in North America, the culture is highly driven with advertising and movies and TV. Everything is about sex and relationships and how it's all, grandized to be this, end all be all and what everybody's after. Yet we have so many, like you say, just 45% of women in terms of the penetration issue, how that kind of translate from, you know, media fantasy to disappointing reality, maybe for some people. And why do you think that is? Because, we all want love, we all want connection, yet we're afraid of it. What's happening there?
Well, when it comes to love, we're afraid of it because we're afraid that somebody's going to see that part of us that we see as unlovable.
Hmm.
So that's intimacy. Intimacy is vulnerable. That's why I say to people, if it doesn't feel vulnerable or a little bit scary, you're doing it wrong.
Well, I'm glad you went there right away, because that was my next question. What's the difference between intimacy, love and relationships, and what does it take to really be intimate? And I think you certainly answered that to that degree. And I never thought about it in that way, about if you're not afraid of it, or if you're afraid of it a little bit, then, I guess you're doing it right. It's a little bit because you're being vulnerable, you're being open, right?
That's exactly it. Vulnerable means outside of your comfort zone. So if you're not a little out of your comfort zone, you're not doing it right. But let me explain to you. I make it so simple. It's like a sports team. One of you is more physical. I'm going to use my stereotypes, if I will, okay? And I'm going to use my couple. Kevin is more physical. Jackie is more emotional. Every relationship, one of you is more physical, one of you is more emotional. I even see it in same-sex couples, I see it in every couple. So what happens in any relationship, even a sports team, is that you get together and you're like, oh, this is awesome. We both love love. I love you. You love me. We both like cherry Coke and dark chocolate. This is going to be terrific. I love kissing you. Uh-huh. Then, even if you were on a sports team, it would be like, yay, we made the team. We're teammates. This is going to be awesome. But every relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, a sports team, or even a team at your office that you work with, every single relationship goes through a power struggle where you start to feel like you're not getting your needs met, or I can't believe you're not giving me my emotional needs. I'm not going to give you my physical touch. You're not giving me, I don't feel physically safe. You're not getting emotion. So you start to make that distance. It's like joining a football team or that baseball team. I know how to throw. I shouldn't have to practice. Everybody knows how to throw. It's catching that's hard, and throwing the ball that someone can catch. That's emotional intelligence and physical awareness at the same time. Being able to understand oh, I'm scared, throw it to me so I can get you. It's okay, I'm going to throw it so you can safe. Finding that safe throw, that's your comfort zone. Then when it gets fun, oh, this is fun. Oh, let's keep going like this. That's your pleasure zone. Then when you're whipping it at each other, that's your danger zone. So you get to learn to play with each other, and you have to learn to give and receive. And in a relationship, that's about giving and receiving love. I can make it that simple. So you were talking about how I work with that sound, the huddle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's the sound. And that is exactly it. So when I tell people to get it, like we're going to be in a relationship, just like a sports team, you have that huddle. Giving it back and forth is actually giving love. As soon as we talk, we get defensive. It's human nature. It's not just because you're a guy or because we listen differently. It's human nature. Words make us think. And whenever we're thinking, we're not feeling. And that's why you feel like you know me, and I also feel like I've known you, but because you can really feel me.
Mm.
Yeah, you can see me in my full jiggleness, and I'm not dyeing my hair. I'm just really here going, we're working through this together. Uh-huh. And I'm here to make it safe. You're here to learn to play football. I know you think you know how to play.
Well, and here's the thing. I love the sports analogy because so many people can relate to it. Yet even the pros, the experts at their game, whether it be hockey, baseball, football, cricket, soccer, whatever it is, the pros practice ad nauseum. It's the hours and endless hours of practice of taking the same shot all the time so that you can A, make the shot, and in those key clutch moments that we would consider them, that you can do something and you can still get the pass or the ball or whatever it is to the other person and they can receive it. So when shit starts going crazy and going sideways, you're ready, no matter which way it comes from, right?
Right. It's also human nature. It's also human nature to be competitive and defensive.
I thought we all got a trophy. Don't we all get a ribbon and a trophy today? There's no winners or losers.
And that's not the truth. It's our human nature to be competitive. And we can only compete on certain things. I can't compete for height or beauty, but I can compete for love and squishiness. And so I say that those athletes, that team, they practice to literally remind themselves that they're on the same side. And think about love this way. If you were to be figuring out how to play football, you and your buddy would get on the field and you'd start ramming into each other like you were opposing teams. You wouldn't get on the team field and start playing with each other like you were pushing the ball in the same direction. That's the difference between being on the same team. And that takes practice, recognizing that when you're in the heat of the moment, oh, right, we're on the same side. And that's why I always say people come to me and it's like, oh, you're about to get divorced. I'll talk to you. I talk to you. What I find is two people want the same thing, connection, but they can't get there. And if they were to go sit in a therapist's office, they would feel like there might be more disconnection because now they're trying to talk about connection and words don't connect you. Just like that, those players on the field, they learn by throwing the ball back and forth. And exactly like you said, they practice ad nauseum. I actually use that example. I say Michael Jordan. If he goes to a new team, he doesn't go, I'm Michael Jordan. Come on, let's do it. No, he
Yeah.
still
No,
practices.
and the Michael Jordans are the first ones to practice and the last ones to leave. All right.
Right.
And then you got a guy like Michael Jordan, and so many people said, you'll never make it, you'll never make it. And yet their determination is what leads them to their success. But nobody ever sees the endless hours, days, months, and years of practice and preparing for that moment.
Right. And we think of sex because you were talking about love, what makes it so difficult. Now we know what it is that love actually is something that we give back and forth, and consistency is another word for love. And not keeping score is another word for love. But sex, the problem with the word sex is that we literally think of sex as penetration and an orgasm as the goal. And that's why people are like, can we have sex? And someone's like, ugh. So the reason I call it pleasure is, long story short, for the same reason we don't call football a touchdown. Because we're not, that keeps us focused on the goal, but it's not the goal, it's the plays and the teamwork, it's that camaraderie. It's even if the team loses, it was like, great game, guys.
Did you do your best, right?
Great,
Did you play
yeah,
your best? Whether you win or lose, you know if you played your best or if you just showed up on the field.
right. And when a team plays their best together, even when they've lost the game, what do they say? Love you,
Great
man.
game, yeah. And
Huddle
great
up.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I froze. I'm frozen. Hopefully, you can still hear
You're
me.
you're back. It's all good. The
Okay.
wonders of technology. When it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, we all but I'm always grateful to be able to have the technology to do the things that we're doing, not just from a conscious living radio perspective, but in many, many different ways of working in the world today. So, you
It
know,
is, it is, and it's amazing because it's made us more connected. I mean, I feel just as connected on a Zoom call that I do sometimes on a coffee, like in person, because now we're both comfortable. I can be in my jammies and we can be home. It feels more comfortable. But at the same time, we can't, we're missing the touch, the real connection.
yeah, but I feel you. I still feel you, Amy, and that's the beauty. And it leads me to what we were talking about before we went live, is there's people out there who don't like to see themselves on camera or get their picture taken, or they barely look in the mirror every day.
Mm.
And we were talking about the intimacy and self-acceptance. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and how to really let go of the self-judgment so
Oh,
that we can, because it's when we accept ourselves that everything opens up versus having to be perfect or look great or whatever that is, be comfortable in your own skin, right?
hmm And that is, yeah, that's one of my sayings is free the jiggle. And it really is about being comfortable with yourself and self-acceptance. And people talk about self-love. And just like we were talking about giving and receiving love takes practice. And self-love does too. I even say this, people say you have to love yourself before you can love someone else, but that's not true. Sometimes being loved by somebody else is what reminds us that we're actually lovable. So if and there's anybody out there feeling unloved, I want you to know I'm loving you from here. And just self-love for me literally feel looks like this, putting a palm on my chest and just going, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that's that self-love and just really feeling it. Mm-hmm. Because you're
Mhm.
sending yourself your own huddles. Can you feel your own good vibes? Can you feel yourself? And I have a popular video on YouTube about, being flesh starved, starved for another person. And I did that at the beginning of 2020. And it's literally about so many people can't feel themselves. So if you think about self-love and feeling yourself, I literally ask people to put that palm up here because I walk around. Sometimes we all check out and our head goes, ah! So when you're feeling anxious, I will walk around and go, mm-hmm, to remind myself that I'm here and I'm okay. But other
Mhm.
times when I like for self as a self-love practice, people think about just a self-masturbation practice. But if you will literally just run your hands over yourself and see if you can feel yourself. Can you even feel you? People are
Mhm.
trying to go, I want to touch you. I want to feel you. I want to hear you. Women are saying, I want to understand somebody else. Can you feel yourself? Can you love yourself? Can you control your own inner negative voice? That's what it is to have self-love. Can you be kind to yourself? And I know that that's really hard. So, I mean, I have a little, I've been there. I have a little sign. I still have it. I have them all over my house. I had them all over my house. Now I just have one in my bathroom in the morning and it says praise.
Mhm.
And I literally look at myself and I praise. And sometimes at the beginning, when I was at my worst, when you couldn't self-love yourself, I've been there. I literally went, good for you. You did the dishes. Good for you. You brushed your teeth. hmm You're okay. Sometimes you're okay is just enough. Whatever it takes to start to turn down that inner voice and even the outer voice. When you're thinking in your head, oh, that person, what an idiot, what a this, what a that, what, even if it's political or what we're thinking of celebrities these days or that kind of thing, really ask you to turn that stuff down because that is about love, self-love, outer love, what you're giving in, what you're sending out. And there are places for those voices in the world, and there are times for those voices in the world, and I can use them myself. But for the most part, can you control it? Can you control what you're thinking? Can you control your love? Can you love whoever is in front of you, even if it's just you? hmm
Nicely said. So here's my question that leads to that is, so from a position of non-judgment and understanding, and then love being what we all want, then there's unconditional love, right? Do you think that, or I guess the question is, are we conditioned and just have a bad habit of looking at the negative and self-judgment and, not measuring up? Or is that something innate that is part of our journey to transcend so that we can love ourselves?
I think that we're spending too long trying to think of whether or not we love somebody and whether or not we can accept them. And if we have a practice where we literally take 3 breaths a day with somebody, hmm hmm
Mhm.
you start to go, oh, this is what I do with you. And you start to go, this is our love. Even when I disagree with you, I can still connect with you. It is human nature. Even Michael Jordan is going, you guys suck. Maybe I should find a better team who knows how to throw me the ball that I want, who's going to catch my ball. Somebody else is going to catch my ball better or throw me the exact ball. But it's that commitment. That's why I believe we are wired to be in committed relationships. Our love is not unconditional. Once someone's in your heart, they're always in your heart. My love for you is unconditional. And I've known some pretty horrible people in my life, and I still love them.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't mean you have to hang out with them though, right?
right, my presence in your life is conditional.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, and I say that because reaching here, because we have heartstrings. There are real heartstrings. So to love someone and to cut that string, and I hate, it's like it's hurting yourself. But if you just go, I love you, and you're far, far away, and I'm just when I think of you, I'm just going to send you a little. That's what that unconditional is. And when we want to know and trust that somebody's there for us, that to me is what the commitment is that we're missing. And people are going, well, I don't want to get in a committed relationship. And if you ask them why they don't want to get in a committed relationship, they say because it's going to hurt. Why is it going to hurt? Because the love is going to stop. Well, the love is going to stop because we're going into a relationship prepared for it to end. We are literally going into committed relationships with a what do they call that thing to get out of a marriage?
A
A prenup.
prenup.
We're going into a relationship with a prenup instead of an intimacy game plan. So I have created an intimacy game plan, and there's a free download for it. Got to find the link for it and get that free download. And this is the thing that you commit to. This is the thing where you go, oh my God, I can't wait to join the team because then we get to try all of these moves. We get to practice all of these moves that Amy teaches you these are not moves that you would do by just having sex with somebody. These are off the top where you're truly connected, the tantra moves where you're really experiencing connection and whole body sensual pleasure.
Mm.
Yeah, it's amazing, really amazing. So that's how I take couples and teach them how to be lovers together, where they're like, oh, this is it. And everybody has trauma. Everybody has confusion when it comes to sexuality. So if you go, I'm on a new team, we're starting with these basic moves over and over and over. It's like I say to somebody, even if I just tell you you're going to have peanut butter and jelly every Wednesday for a year. By the time you get to the end of the year, you will have mastered your peanut butter and jelly. You would have toasted it, you would have grilled it, you would have gotten gourmet peanut butter. So even if you're doing these same moves, as I give you little layers, try this with it, try this with it. It might still just be, oh, yeah, I know how to make a peanut butter and jelly. I know how to do that move. I know how to do that oral thing. I know how to do that hand thing. No, you don't. You know that you think you do, but once you learn from a coach, that's the coach who teaches you how to put that spin on the balls.
Right.
And that's what I do. I teach you how to understand those little cues so you know what to do in the field and how to throw the ball exactly so someone can catch it. Because when someone throws you a ball that you can catch, you feel loved. And then you want to throw it back.
I love how you talked about a coach. And if we go back to the metaphor that we're using in sports and Michael Jordan and the pros, they all have a coach. Yet they're the best in the world at what they do, and they have coaches, and they got more than one coach, right? So the importance of getting knowledge, training, outside perspective into what's going on, I think really makes a difference, not just in sex and relationships, but in life. Now, that being said, I'm curious, why do you think, divorce is running so epidemic? Have we made relationships so easy to get out of that people just don't work on it and they just give up? Or what's going on with that? Because I know that the statistics are quite high.
I'm really mad about those statistics being quite high. Thank you. I love you that you brought that up. That's part of my problem is I looked around and I went, my husband and I aren't the only ones with a lack of intimacy. It wasn't
Hmm.
just about erectile dysfunction. I could see it in every couple around me. We want to live our lives with somebody. The reason the divorce rate is so high is because we're literally going into a loving relationship, knowing that we're two completely different people. He wants sex, she wants emotional intimacy. Intimacy means two completely different things to two different people. Marriage relationship means two different things. To Jackie, it means that she's emotionally safe. She can drop her guard. She can start crying, and Kevin will be there for her. But that's not Kevin's language. He doesn't know that language, but he's going to learn that language by being part of an intimacy team. And he wants access to his emotions. And Kevin wants to be in a relationship so that he can feel physically connected to somebody, so he can drop his guard and hold somebody's hand when he needs to. But because they're two completely different people with different moods, appetites, and languages, they start to fall into that power struggle of going, "Ah, I can't believe you said that. Ah, I can't believe you withdrew your hand like that." And then they start making these walls between them. And without that plan, every relationship hits that power struggle. Every business hits that power struggle. You go into a business with a business plan because otherwise the marketing department and the finance department are not going to agree. But if you have the business plan, this is our goal. We do this at this time. We do this at this time. We do this at this time. Then we know that we're going to continue to grow. We're going to get through the hard times and the good times. People are breaking up not because they don't love each other, but because they've stopped feeling the love or making the love. And then they start to break up. And I look at tons of people who've broken up and I'm like, they love each other. And they just sort of expensed it. I have a note down here. I want to write it because it was so good. The other things get in the way. From somebody I talked to earlier today, she said, other things got in the way. And that's one of my favorite conversations about the woman who said, well, we had kids. Couldn't he see I was busy? And I said, how long had it been? She's going, well, I'd give him chore sex. And I'm like, how long had it been since you noticed to connect with your husband? She was like, well, probably 8 years. 8 years? And now you're mad at him because he went out for peanut butter and jelly? He is wired to want to make love. You're wired to want to feel love. But if you have this intimacy game plan, then through the kids, through the tax season, through the wars of life, we show up for our team, even if we just huddle. Sorry, guys, I can't play. These are real, but I'm here for you because I love you, man, and I'm part of the team. Because we show up for each other and we know how, And also, I have noticed a great, powerful emasculation of men over the past 20 years, and I'm tired of it. I want I don't care how powerful women are in the world and their goddess and their self-empowerment, we, powerful women, still want men to lead in the bedroom. And that is a very confusing message for men.
Well, I know I can, as a man, I can speak for myself because, with the Me Too movement, which I totally understand and can appreciate because there's a lot of abuse out there, right? Yet, as a man, there used to be the day where you'd have to, get the guts to kiss the girl and everything else, and where now you need consent, but if you ask, it's a turnoff. And, there's so many mixed messages for men, and I'm sure women as well. But speaking from a man's point of view, it makes one a little bit gun shy to pull the trigger, right?
Right. And which is why these sounds really work, which is why I teach people how to connect and how you can feel that connection in between you. Because intimacy is that unspoken understanding, it's that feeling in between you. So when you're learning to read the signals, I teach people how to do that. And we want men to lead, which is why I think men, especially even more than women these days, we've had a change in culture, but really need to be in a committed relationship so that you can lead at home, and which is how I teach people to do with these tiny little exercises. I'm going to have to share one with you because it's so great. But so that they can show up as leaders in the world, because that's what we need. Men are leaders in a different way than women. We lead different things, that's all. And we need men to feel loved, well loved at home, so that they're working as leaders who are well loved. That's the big change that I see. And I have some of my clients have been world leaders and really powerful names that I get and everything. But I've seen them make huge shifts by going, I will stand up for what is right. I will follow my heart instead of my pocketbook. I will have the courage to be seen as I am.
And I think too is like what you're saying there is, being, loved at home and in your relationships and feeling that so you can go out and be a better leader in the world, which is, it always starts at home first. So
Mhm.
the importance of, you know, not stepping out or going for peanut butter and jelly somewhere else and coming home even though you're working maybe a 12, 14, 16 hour day because you're busy doing stuff, you're safe and comfortable and she's not thinking you're out fooling around because she's got your back. She knows what you're doing. You're out there changing the world or whatever that is. That gives the man the freedom to go be even more influential and effective in terms of what they're doing versus maybe thinking through the other head on their body, right?
Right. They're not out searching, and this and the same for her, because when she feels well loved and solid at home, she doesn't have to be out worrying about the mixed messages that she's sending. It's just so obvious that she is a well-contained woman, that she is part of a team. And whenever somebody's part of a team, it's like that's where that sense of pride comes from. When we're feeling insecure, or is this enough, or are they going out for peanut butter and jelly? I mean, that's part of human nature too, but the commitment is this is my home team. I actually look at it like a team, and I say if you're going off to play with another team, I don't, I don't shame or blame. I literally go, okay, then there's something that you're not getting from this team, and let's see what it is, because sometimes those things are valid. And sometimes people can, I can justify it, or everybody makes sense all of the time. And if they're like, this person can't, because like I have worked with quadriplegics, people who've they're one of my favorite couples. They were a hot motorcycle couple, and he got in a motorcycle accident. And this sexy couple is suddenly, he's now a quadriplegic. So what was right for them was we gave them a sensual pleasure practice to share for the two of them so that they were always sharing intimacy and sensual pleasure because that part never ends as long as you're alive. But for them, it was very okay and natural for us to say, okay, let's open a relationship so she can get her needs met. And what does that look like so that it works for the both of you, so that it still feels like it's part of your team and he's not feeling like she's leaving. And, their solution will be different than anybody else's. As a coach, I look at you're an athlete, you're an athlete. You want to be your best physically, you want to be met emotionally and physically, and I help you find the connection between. And so a lot of times when people start working with me, especially my couples, men will be like, well, she's the one who made me want to do this, but now I am so excited. I've always wanted to learn this stuff, but nobody was teaching it. And I'm like, I know. That's why I'm here.
Which again circles back to my question earlier is, nobody's teaching it. It all becomes, almost taboo and not spoken of, yet it's the one thing we all want, need, and desire almost above anything else, right? And
I
yet where's the teachers? Where do we learn this? Because they're certainly not teaching it at school or
Well,
church.
nor should they. I want to
No,
say,
and I agree. I agree. I'm just
yeah,
saying we have to learn that in a different way
right.
and not be shy or afraid of it.
Right, but I do think here, and here's the thing. The reason people come to me and they're going, well, we didn't talk about this in my family. There was so much shame, but it's not about shame. We shouldn't talk about this with our family. You don't want to learn this from your parents because these things are private. Intimacy is private. Like I say, they're called privates for a reason. So you need some place to learn. It used to be there was the village auntie that you went to who would tell you everything. I have one of my clients talk to me about being like his grandfather because he could go to his grandfather, would tell him anything. So I've been called a grandpa. But that's exactly why I feel like I'm here so I can explain stuff. This is what you do on the first date. This is what you do after 10 years. This is how you do when the spark is done. This is what I want you to know when you have kids. This is what I want you to know when she has her pain. This is how you keep getting to be better and better lovers, athletes, and teams forever. And even sometimes teams have to break up, or sometimes a partner has to leave a team for
Yeah, they
whatever.
get traded, right?
Yeah, and I'm there to help them untie, as I call it, so that they can feel clean, so that they both are going, okay, I'm able to move on and get another team. I'm able to move on here. There's no bad blood between them. It's quite remarkable. Hmm.
Well, I love what you're saying there, and it what came to my mind in what you were saying was, something I learned in my journey in terms of my own, awakening, and that'll never end. But it's the terms that people are using in the conscious community is, the conscious relating, right? Being aware of how we're relating. And when it comes down to, breaking up or going different ways, it's the conscious uncoupling.
Yeah.
And, it's something that I think is important in the sense that it's about awareness and making decisions based on values and beliefs and what we want in our lives, yet at the same point, um is that a cop out for people? Is it, what is that exactly?
Well, I'm aware of conscious uncoupling, and I've learned and taken people's courses on it. What I do is called untying, and I literally think of us like athletes, and this is why it works. If you were leaving a team and I was your coach, I would say to you, these are your strengths. And I love these strengths about you. I am going to miss these strengths about you. These strengths are hard to find. These are your shortcomings. When you go to a new team, I want you to work on these things so that you can be a better person for yourself, for your team, and in the world. These are the things that I still want to have access to. I have always come to you to help me with my spiritual stuff or with my health questions or with my children. I still want to have access to you for that. You've always come to me for this. I can't do that anymore. So when we look at it like that, couples go on to love each other. I helped a Hollywood couple untie to the point where it went so well that nobody knew they even got a divorce until he married somebody else. And everybody was going, he's marrying, wasn't he married to her? And you see them, and it's a big deal of how well they get along. Well, that's because they held on to the pieces of each other that they needed. They said, I know that you're struggling with this, and I love you, even though you're struggling with this. So when you need to have this piece reflected back to you, and you can say, I'm fucking up. Oops, sorry. You can come to me and I'll help bump you back into place, because that's what we do when someone's in our heart, they're in your heart always.
Hmm.
So that's how I teach, that's how I treat it. But I also mostly am helping couples who've really, really tied the knot instead of just we were together for a couple of months. But now I want
Yeah.
something else based on my values, because our values and our tastes change throughout our lifetime. So if you're with somebody just because of their values or their tastes, you're in a short-term relationship. You get with somebody because they're willing to build. And
And
they,
willing to do whatever it takes, right? They're moving that mountains. It's they're,
yeah.
separate, divorce is not an option. It's
Well,
how do we.
yeah, and I look at separation. I'm going to share this because I think it's so important. People miss a total important part. I think separation is a really important level. We get into a relationship and we go, I like this about you. I'm going to try and tolerate these habits. Then we get into a relationship and we go, I can't tolerate these habits. Let's break up. But what I'd like people to do is actually separate. Separation means I'm going to work on these habits and see if I can fix them. And I want you to work on these habits, and let's see if we can come back together. Instead, people are looking at a separation as if, well, we've already divorced. We're just waiting for the paperwork to go through.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've helped a lot of people who've been separated for years get back together because they've been separated for years, and that tie, that heartstring is still there for a reason. They just didn't know how to be there for each other. And literally, the minute that they start this huddle practice, and what I do for my couples, I'm letting you know, is I say, there's no talking about anything triggering for 2 weeks. And there's no sex for 2 weeks. I want you to keep your underwear on and get physical, but no penetration and no talking. And those couples are like, ah,
Hmm.
oh, thank you. So you become hyper aware of that connection in the space between you. It's a reset. And now with my couples who are in my program, I've talked to them about it and said, I think I want to do this every year so that every year my couples take a 2 week focus. And they're all going, oh, yes, we love that part. So, and that's, I also, yeah, that's so I've taken couples who've been sexless for 20 years, 20 years, who are like, off the charts now.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. And to when you're talking about 20 years, that's not a uncommon story of couples who, really just kind of grow into being best friends instead of lovers and couples. And, the way that we're supposed to, magnify the life experience in a powerful relationship, it has to add value and be synergistic where one plus one equals more than the sum of two, you know?
Exactly.
Versus where one plus one equals one. That doesn't work either.
Yeah, and this is a pleasure practice that I give people.
Mhm.
So it's a totally different thing, you know. And I had a couple who they're sexless for 17 years or something, and they came to see me. And recently they reached out. This is like 17 years ago. Recently they reached out and she's had a stroke. And I said, you can still do this practice together. You can still share pleasure and feel that aliveness. And he was like, oh yeah, trust me, we are. And in their conversations, they're like, the one thing we've never didn't regret out of our life and relationship is our time with you, learning how to be lovers. There's nothing more important. That's how you get through anything. And that's, I think, why most couples are breaking up is because they just keep doing the same moves and having the same peanut butter and jelly over and over instead of getting better and better at it. Add some banana.
I was thinking about that earlier when you first started talking about peanut butter and jelly. I'm like, what about banana? And I didn't want to be too suggestive if I came across wrong. But so, Amy, we've got about 5 minutes left. I feel like I could talk to you, for hours about this subject. So maybe we can wrap it up by telling people and our listeners what's the best thing they can do if they're having some challenges and that would apply to people who are even in a great relationship at the same point. And let's wrap that up with how people can get a hold of you if they want to learn more, where they can dive deeper into building an even better relationship for themselves and their partners.
Okay. The most important thing that anybody can do for themselves and their partner and their relationship is to learn to huddle, which is just make these sounds, oh, oh, Even
Mhm.
when you're talking, get used to making these little communication sounds, oh, ah. It'll give you a better connection to yourself and whoever is around you. The other thing that you can do is download my free game plan, the game plan, because it gives you the formula to when you're supposed to practice, what you're practicing together. It's your game plan. And then from there, I have a book called The Huddle, which I talk about communication and about this being a pleasure practice and giving and taking. Just like my TED Talk, this book is me literally walking Kevin and Jackie through their sessions, giving them their exercises, and I tell hilarious stories. And I have a program where you literally learn to connect, to plan. I teach people a move that initiates. Everything's based on the science, neurology, body chemistry. This is literally science. And I have a program called the Intimacy Game Plan. And it is just it's phenomenal. My couples love it. My individuals love it. I have locker rooms going on where people can just join for a lower rate, where we talk about love, sex, and relationships. And all of my stuff is live. I have a YouTube channel, but I don't record my live sessions. That way people can speak freely. Privacy and people's trust is my most profound, most important priority.
Well, it's
Hmm.
such an important thing to have safe space where because if you don't feel safe, you're not going to open up. You're not going to be intimate in the definition where you're saying, being vulnerable and sharing those things. So thank you for that, Amy. And if you haven't seen Amy's TED Talk, by all means, go check it out. It is on YouTube. She mentioned some links. They're down below on the side, wherever it is in your social medias, on our website. If you're listening to this on the radio, you can find the links and downloads to her free gifts and learn more about Amy and
And
her
each
work.
other, and
Yeah,
yourself and each
absolutely.
other.
Yeah. That's always a pleasure speaking with you, Amy, because it opens things up for me so that I can learn and be a better communicator and relate, not just with women in romantic relationships, but with all people in all relationships from, the authentic perspective. And it's one thing I've learned over the years in the work that I've been doing is, when we can be our authentic selves.
Mm,
And part is being safe, and the other part is not giving a crap about what other people are judging of you. Be yourself, because that's where the magic is.
that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love talking to you too, Mark. Thank you.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for being on the program. If you're interested in learning more and taking your relationships to the next level, check out Amy Keller. My name is Marc Caron. You've been listening to Conscious Living, where we air on CFRO 100.5 FM in Vancouver every Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and just remember to use those sounds and words. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Have yourself a wonderful day and take care of yourself, everyone. Bye for now.